Well, there's a united front at the White House. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth pushing back hard on a leaked Pentagon report, an early low-confidence damage assessment that claimed U.S. strikes only set Iran's nuclear program back by 3 months. Now, the Pentagon showing this footage as part of its response of a previous test, and Secretary Hegseth maintaining the strikes were devastating.
President Trump directed the most complex and secretive military operation in history, and it was a resounding success. I can say here that the assessment is that we significantly damaged the nuclear program, setting it back by years. I repeat, years. Those that understand, those that see, those that do proper assessments recognize that what the United States military did was historic.
And Hegseth saving some of his ammo for the media that he accuses of undermining the military service members who flew the mission.
It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump because you want him not to be successful so bad. You have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it.
As for plugging the leak, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the FBI is on the case, and she added this.
It's illegal, and they should be held accountable for that. Leaked bits and pieces of an intel assessment to push a false narrative. Someone who had their hands on this, and it was a very few people, few number of people in our government who saw this report, that person was irresponsible with it, and we need to get to the bottom of it.
President Trump warning of harsh consequences if that leaker is caught. He posted on Truth Social. The Democrats are the ones who leaked the information on the perfect flight to the nuclear sites in Iran. They should be prosecuted. All right. Lots to get to. I don't think, Jesse, that it's irresponsible of the media to say, well, what was the efficacy of and the results of the strike? But to go forward with the Defense Intelligence Agency low confidence report as if it was gospel, and then it was like a wildfire all across the media, does seem a little irresponsible.
It is, and we were so proud to hear from this general about this mission. It makes you almost cry, but to hear that this guy studied this mountain for 15 years and spoke to geologists and industry and explosive experts, and then 15 years later, they get the go-ahead and these pilots go in, and it's like 37-hour flight, and they basically drop 6 bombs down this air shaft, swish, 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 from 15,000 feet. The perfection and the precision, it's just incredible. And so it's obviously a successful hit. And the pilots even said it was I think the darkest night of the month. And they said all of a sudden it was like daytime. It was the brightest and most ferocious explosion they've ever witnessed. And they even practiced it on dummy mountains. And so, everyone's feeling this huge swelling of patriotism, and then CNN comes along and sullies it. Now, CNN says we didn't do anything wrong. But CNN spent 48 hours with guests at the top of every single hour saying the mission failed, saying the bombs didn't work, says the Iranians still have a nuclear program. What kind of effect does that have? You're basically taking classified information and using it to undermine the commander-in-chief and cast doubt on the effectiveness of the American military capabilities and putting the commander-in-chief at a disadvantage when he's trying to maintain a ceasefire. It's treasonous. That's the T word, Jessica. And Kash and Bongino are going to be looking at these congressmen now because I have a suspect list. I feel like I know who this person was. And you can easily find them. There's a limited amount of people that access this intelligence. You go and see who got access to it, and then you narrow it down, and then you get a warrant for their phone. So they better lawyer up, because someone's going to go to prison for a very long time. I really think that when you add up the Israelis, even the Iranians, the CIA, the DNI, the Pentagon, they all say the same thing. They hit pay dirt. The only one saying it wasn't a righteous shot was the Ayatollah and CNN. And the only reason the Ayatollah is saying that is because he's bluffing.
If he's really saying it at all himself.
The Ayatollah.
Exactly. I think, Charlie, one of the things about this is that because America and Israel did something remarkable and outstanding for the world, in terms, I believe, in terms of the peaceful nature of the future of the world, there is the possibility of a regional transformation. You now know that because of this action, if Iran isn't on the threshold of a nuclear weapon, they're basically like Oman. And so they don't have that. And now you have the possibility of expanding the Abraham Accords and a different Middle East.
Yeah, and I think that President Trump will get the same credit from these people that he got for the Abraham Accords, which were certainly among the one or two most significant things to happen in terms of world peace in the Middle East over the past several decades. A problem that is so intractable that every great statesman that's been produced in the past half century has basically lost in their efforts to try to bring peace there. And I agree, I'm hopeful. I was kind of amused listening to everybody talk about how the MAGA base was going to split in two over this. I always kind of find it funny when people suddenly become experts on Trump voters. They've been scornful of Trump voters forever, and then suddenly they're experts on it. I think that most Trump voters, they don't want to get into another war by any means. But if you had an option to either silence or put Iran out of commission, or at the very least take a nuclear weapon out of their hands, 90% of Trump voters would be like, yeah, that seems like a step in the right direction. And you're right. If this does happen, you're talking about an expansion of the Abraham Accords, a building on the Abraham Accords that we could have only dreamed of a couple of years ago. The people at CNN, these people, they're never going to give him credit for this. And in fact, I think that it actually is part of what drives them so insanely crazy, is that they see him bringing this level, actual common sense, a non-ideological approach to these problems with fresh thinking. And then he gets solutions and actually gets people talking to one another. And I think it worsens the Trump derangement syndrome. It's almost like it takes it to a whole new level of fevered pitch. They just freak out. And I'm sorry that these people are going to suffer so badly about this, but I would rather have, a peaceful world and a peaceful Middle East.
Emily, I was thinking about you today because part of the briefing this morning was a real chance to honor, thank, and celebrate the men and women who worked on this mission and they've worked on it their entire lives. They've practiced, as Jesse was saying, they've practiced this, they knew the mission, and also for the young people that were there under attack in Qatar at our base there. You're closest, I think, to the military here. What do you think that meant for them or to them?
An exceptional message of gratitude and honor that they so richly deserve. And I think so much of these military operations, the success, the efficacy depends on this absolute, perfect, magical collaboration between hundreds of thousands of people in all different forms and positions and functions. And when it's executed properly and it looks effortless, people think it's easy. But the reality is that it takes generations of institutional knowledge and that patriotism and that skill set that we can only find here. So I was deeply appreciative simply as an American to witness that. And I agree with you that it was a right moment to express that gratitude finally for these troops with this administration. Part of the hypocrisy I find with the media in terms of the reliance on this outlier report is that it's the same members of the media that are saying, well, it's going to take some time for us to be sure. So if that were true, why then did they pounce so immediately on the low confidence outlier leaked report, premature and uncollaborated, to have that finding, right? And we understand, of course, that it's one of multiple, but I think the worst part about their deceit is maybe not even just the deceit, but the fact that they fail to celebrate an American success and the choose your own adventure, the option that sees the expansion of the Abraham Accords, potential peace, prosperity, and total liberation, and that somehow they cannot celebrate that because of who the commander-in-chief was. And we know that it's political because we saw this under the prior administration, right? There was a complete reliance, rightly so, on the presidency of the intelligence community, but the media ran with that. They had no problem waiting for consensus and confirmed reporting, right? Remember that the Afghanistan withdrawal, when we were told by this administration that the Afghan government would be in effect and remain in power for a really long time. Well, clearly that was dead wrong, but the media had no problem furthering that. And the Chinese spy balloon, which was why Biden shot it down over the water. And of course, the 51 intelligence officials, former, who signed that letter to the same Natasha Bertrand. So the whole point is we see here that only now, with this particular commander-in-chief, do they choose to report and amplify the drivel that first comes out.
Well, a lot of that same media, it just occurs to me, Jessica, they were the ones who had a hard time saying that Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal was a failure.
Really? Maybe it's just my lived experience, but I felt like everybody was talking about how terrible that was. And we had reports right away that there were people within the administration who told him, we don't think that you can move this quickly. We know that this is the right end result, but this process will not work. Folks who worked for him in the Pentagon. So I don't know. That's just my view on it. I also don't know how many reporters there would be who got the opportunity to report that early intelligence brief on what had happened and wouldn't have put it out there. And then after it came from CNN, it was confirmed by other outlets. Listen, Donald Trump hates the press. It's his number one witch hunt or whatever. And Secretary Hegseth knows how to please his boss.
No,
and that was a performance.
The biased press.
No,
the biased press. They don't hate the
but
press.
they decide who's biased on a daily basis. He does it all the time. He goes, "Oh, you're not so bad today," and then tomorrow he says, "Oh, wait, I hate you again." So Secretary Hegseth was, that's fine, but it doesn't change the reality of it. That the way that he speaks to them, the way that he discredits genuine questions, and it happened today with Secretary Hegseth. And the questioning about, what changed over the last 3 days, right? That you are now willing to say this was total obliteration when you said the reports are going to come in over time. And I know that it went well because we got the review from Trump, one of the greatest, most professional, and most confirming news conferences I've ever seen. The fake news should have everyone involved in this. We should fire everyone involved in the witch hunt and apologize to our great warriors. I haven't seen anyone minimizing the warriors, asking questions about where 400 pounds of 60% enriched uranium is not minimizing what these warriors did. And we should note as well that the people in the intel community, they're warriors as well, and they get diminished constantly. He talks about the deep state, et cetera. The European intel agencies are reporting that the uranium is intact. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat.
Wait, Jessica, the Europeans, we were telling them Russia was going to invade Ukraine for a year, and they were like, no, I don't see it.
Listen.
I think American and Israeli intelligence is much crisper.
Well, the senators were briefed today. Tom Cotton comes out, and he said it was not part of the mission to destroy the uranium. Well, why wouldn't it be? If you thought that all the uranium was in Fordo, why wouldn't you have wanted to totally obliterate?
To get the weapons.
Okay, so is no one concerned that there's 900 pounds of uranium maybe in a truck driving around the mountains there?
Well, Pete Hegseth says he hasn't seen any intelligence that they took it out in trucks. And the guest today on Martha said those trucks that they saw parked next to the mountain are not capable of bringing uranium out of there.
Well, Senator Chris Murphy, who was also in attendance, said that saw no evidence of this, has pushed back the nuclear project any more than a few months. So time will tell. But I thought it was a very
Where's the line of acceptability for denigrating people between the intelligence figures and ICE agents?
What?
Why is it acceptable to denigrate ICE agents, but it's not acceptable to denigrate the leakers in the intelligence community?
Well, first of all, I'm talking about the intelligence community writ large, but if you're talking about an ICE agent who's masked and pulling someone out of a Home Depot, no, I just say don't do it. I don't call them a bad person. Okay. I know they're following orders. I've seen Tom Homan and Stephen Miller.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.